Hello, Mr. Hausman. Would you like some pretzels?
What, no peanuts?
No, sorry. There's a little Shih Tzu in first class, sensitive to nuts.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show, No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman. I am absolutely delighted to have you here once again. I've been on the road having a great time, and you know what? We're back to fall. It's time for the conference season to begin, but not until we had just one last great Labor Day blowout. I had a great opportunity to go down to Colorado for my holiday. I took in a couple of concerts, but I was there to really investigate what was going on in the world of cannabis tourism, and we're going to be exploring that in the second half of the show, and I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's not something that's very silly. It's not something that's going to make people feel uncomfortable. It really was remarkable to me what a real business this was like, and one of the folks I had on the tour with me is my producer, Jeff Polly, who's back today. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you? And hope all the audience is doing well, too.
I hope they are, too. I know I am because, man, that was such an interesting tour. And, you know, Jeff, I was really surprised by how much it seemed to me to be just pretty much mundane and whatever, and very much just like going on a brew pub tour.
Yeah, well, you know, that's kind of how Colorado is becoming about the whole marijuana industry. I think, I've lived out here for 10 years. And I saw it go from being illegal to decriminalized to medical only and now to recreational. And the transition, you know, we had our spurts of excitement for each transition, and people were going kind of crazy. And, you know, when a medical marijuana shop would open up for the first time, there'd be lines out the door. And now it's just becoming part of normal everyday life here in Colorado. And we're just reaping the benefits from all the taxes that are coming in from both recreational and medicinal business. And then we're enjoying the boost in tourism that's not necessarily based around our ski season and our winter months for people that are coming in and taking tours like that.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. You're going to learn all about it. Make sure you stick around after this part of the show. But, you know, trying to get out to you, Jeff, was a real pain in the neck, I'll tell you. And I'll probably wind up writing a column in a hotel management magazine where you can find my columns 2 times a week. And be sure to follow me at Traveling Glenn on Twitter or at Instagram. And we'll let you know about all the great articles that are coming out and all the other kind of content we have. But, Jeff, I'll tell you, I was there. I was at the airport. My flight was at 8:30. You were supposed to pick me up at 11 Colorado time. And I got on the plane, and then I sat, and then I sat, and then I sat some more. And I was something like 3 hours late, but I'll tell you, at least I was relaxed. I was chill. I was headed out for a vacation, and I had nothing weird or annoying happen to me. And that's going to be kind of the theme of our show today, some of the weird things that happen on airplanes, and then some of the most annoying things that happen. So what are you thinking about when it comes to weird airplane trips?
I put together this list because, you know, we are going into a busy travel season for all us road warriors. I think the last quarter of the year, everybody's going to start ramping up business. Everybody's coming back from vacation. So first thing we're going to do is talk about the weirdest things people do on planes.
Let's do
it. Why they do them. I'm not sure. Most of these I've seen, and it's kind of crazy to me. But let's talk about it. Changing diapers in unsanitary places. I have literally seen people, you know, change their kid's diaper on a row that they're sitting at, for everybody. And I understand the bathrooms in planes are a little cramped and it's a little bit hard, but I'm just not down with seeing or sitting on a seat that has had a child's diaper changed.
Well, I totally get that, especially since you aren't a parent. I could see how that would be weird to you. But even as me, a parent who had twins that were always pooping and peeing at the exact same time, I don't want to have anything to do with any other kids, trip to Natureville over there. So, yeah, I agree. That's absolutely disgusting. And people, keep your poop in the bathroom. Absolutely gross. I thought the tray tables were bad enough to begin with, but this just makes it a whole lot worse.
Yeah, the next guy I'm going to talk about, and we've all seen this on the plane, is the guy that leaves the gross garbage. And we've all witnessed the plethora of wrappers and food and vomit bags or again, dirty diapers or whatever, and they just don't seem to, care to clean it up in our space, even though we're all in that little tiny tin can together.
That's true. One of my favorite things is when the guy next to you is coughing up and he's like really hacking up a lung and he's doing it to the tissue stuff. And then instead of getting up and throwing it out, he just shoves it right there into the seat pocket. Real classy.
Yeah.
Love that move.
Getting up would be way too inconvenient for him at that moment, I guess.
Well, yeah. To be fair, it is at least 50 feet the bathroom in either direction, so I could see why he wouldn't want to do that. But dirty diapers, vomit bags, all wrapped in a chalupa sounds pretty disgusting to me.
Yeah, it's totally weird behavior. I'm not sure why people do it in such close proximity to hundreds of other people. Here's another one, and I have to admit, I might be a little guilty of this. Adult content. There have been times where I've been watching a movie and I didn't necessarily know,
right.
A bad scene or a R-rated or X-rated scene was coming up in the movie.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, I try to be cognizant of it. I try to turn, if something's happening that I don't want other people to see, I try to turn my iPad or whatever I'm watching so it's a little bit more private view. But, I've seen it on planes where people just kind of, go with the flow. Doesn't matter who's sitting next to them, or the people that are, totally engrossed into PDA and, kissing or rubbing on each other or trying to get into trying to coerce their other partner to join the Mile High Club. It's a little inappropriate.
Definitely inappropriate. And I will tell you, I'm no prude, but I certainly get really weird when I'm watching a video and then some naked boobs or something like that shows up on the screen. I feel all of a sudden like everyone in the planet is looking at me, and I feel extremely uncomfortable. And I shirk down underneath the seat, or I try to cover everything with a blanket just so I don't have to be even more embarrassed by that. Or just try to fast forward to the next scene, but then you miss all the important dialogue that's happening during those love scenes.
Yes, because I'm watching the love scenes for the dialogue. Yes. Yeah.
That's what they're there for, Jeff. Advance the plot, because nobody would put in anything gratuitous simply for the sake of being gratuitous. And that's not the America I know. That's not the America I love.
I'll for my next strange behavior on airlines. I've seen this. I've been close to people that have done this, but losing your temper. It's a stressful time, even whether you're traveling for business or vacation or anything. Being in an airport kind of just sucks, and being on a plane kind of sucks more. But one thing that I've learned in my 20 plus years of traveling professionally and, traveling for 40 plus years, being a military brat, is it does no one any good for you to lose your temper and lash out at people that maybe they're the source of the problem, but most likely not. Most likely there's a rule or there's someone higher up that's telling them what to do. So, strange behavior, lashing out at people and losing your temper, it's just not the way to go.
Especially flight attendants. I don't understand why people yell at flight attendants. It's like there's this disconnect with them that they don't realize the flight attendants could just simply either kick them off the flight if they haven't left the gate yet, or have them met by security at the other end. You want the travel agents, you want the flight attendants to be your friends, not make enemies with them. See any good particular situations on a plane before like that?
I have, nothing that stands out crazy, people getting kicked off the plane, but I've seen people being told to calm down and, people to take their seat and stuff like that. And again, it just to be that stressed out and lose your temper just makes the flight worse for everyone. Yeah,
I saw one person who they're like, "Is this your luggage?" It was up on the top, and they're like, "Could you put it under your seat?" And he freaked out. It's like, God forbid you should do anybody else a favor, but he went absolutely nuts and cuckoo, and then he wound up getting removed from the flight before it even left. So I guess he was having a bad day already. He just made it a lot worse on himself.
Well, I'm glad you talked about flight attendants because that brings me to my next weird behavior. And it seems like people lose their manners a little bit on flights.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily make any sense to me. Maybe it's, again, the stress of flying. But, flight attendants say they get poked a lot. And it's usually, hard and in the hips or the bottom by passengers looking to get their attention. And like you said, we need those flight attendants to be on our side and not against us to make our lives a little bit more enjoyable on a miserable situation.
Yeah, that's really strange that they get poked. I try to avoid any negativity with them whatsoever. I don't even want to hit the light above my seat to call any attention to myself because it's just you're not going to get anything from them if you kind of do anything to them that's not really nice and polite. They're just not going to help you out. I'd rather kill them with kindness, and before you know it, you're going to be getting that extra bag of peanuts that you've always dreamed of.
Yeah. So next weird behavior, and I've actually seen this, and we actually know someone that is adamantly, a huge proponent of this.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
And that's using a gym as your own or using an airplane as your own personal gym.
Right.
And I'm 6'4", and when I get extra seat, leg room, whatever, if I get that seat that's right next to the door and I have that open space, I've literally had people come in and stand in that space and do squats right there.
Are you kidding me?
And it's just the weirdest thing to me, stretching your legs and stretching your back is one thing because we're all cramped.
Yeah.
But to do a workout, in a tin can with 200 other people is a little strange.
Yeah, a little strange, a little weird, and, hopefully they're not wearing too many spandex either, because most people on airplanes shouldn't be wearing that.
Exactly. And you know what most people shouldn't be doing, and this is my next weird behavior? They shouldn't really groom themselves. And I think,
why are you cutting your nails right next to me, dude?
I've seen it a million times, and it makes no sense to me that they're trimming their nails, trimming their fingernails. I've seen people pick their toenails off and dump them on the carpet. And again, it's this isn't a spa. This isn't your own personal home. This is a space that we all have to share. And all at the same time for, 4 or 5 hours, and then you get off,
right.
And then you can do your grooming.
Right. For the sake of this podcast, I'll say she was a lovely young lady. But this woman, she was doing her nails. She was actually polishing her nails with that horrible-smelling poison that women put on their fingers all the time. And the entire plane stank like this weird combination of alcohol and danger. It was just not good.
I've been witness to that myself, and the flight attendant actually told her to stop, and she got a little bit upset about that. But,
yeah, I would hope so. I mean, that's disgusting.
Yeah. So next one, and we've all been on our business trips. We've all had a super stressful trip or whatever, and we've wanted to have take the weight off a little bit and maybe have a cocktail or two, but the airplane is not a place to get wasted. It's just, one, you're traveling at a higher altitude, so there's less oxygen up there, even though it's getting pumped in. It's easier to get wasted while you're up there, but if you do, you get rambunctious, you get loud and belligerent, and it's just again, a weird thing to do on a plane full of 200 other people.
Yeah, my flight out of Denver, people were extremely calm. I don't know why that would be. I don't think that had anything to do with alcohol. But the typical flight to Vegas, everybody goes a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I think, on that flight. And by the time you land, there's always people that are out of control, insane. One guy got so drunk they actually had to pull him off the plane because he was basically passed out on the seats.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the flight to Denver, maybe they all took the tour that you went on over the weekend, and that's why they were so calm.
That's kind of what I was getting out there. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. It looked. I saw a lot of people. They really just seemed to want to get educated on a lot of topics they couldn't get back at home.
Yeah, for sure. So moving from strange behaviors, we it's kind of the same thing, but it's a little bit more nitpicky, I think. And I think I've talked to tons of travelers, and we all have our little nuances that really annoy us about the everyday common traveler, something that they do or something that we see out of line. And I just wanted to go over some of those and really pick out the ones that, to me, that I think are rude and really unaccommodating to the other passengers. And the first one, and I get so frustrated with this because I carry lots of video equipment with me in my bag, and abusing someone else's bag or possessions in the overhead bin. We're all fighting for space up there, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can, feel the right because you're right. That overhead's right above your space to, rummage through or push around someone else's bag. Like I said, I've got a lot of expensive gear in mine, so it really frustrates me when someone tries to move it or abuse it.
Yeah, I hate it too. I think it's kind of rude, and I'm seeing it more frequently these days. People just seem to have the attitude that, hey, I don't care about your crap. It's all about my stuff. That's all that matters here. And I see it time and time again. Now, me personally, just flying back on that trip from Denver, the flight attendant had arranged it to put somebody else's bag on top of mine. They're both like computer bags, right? I felt insanely uncomfortable even touching my bag then during that flight because I was afraid of moving someone else's stuff and then putting it down on my chair for a moment while I got into my bag. So I don't understand how people can just be so callous and disregard other people's properties when the rest of us, like you and me, are extremely conservative and concerned about it.
Well, hopefully the people who are listening will take heed next time they try to move someone else's bag.
Well, I would like to think that the people that listen to this the podcast are smarter, more intelligent, more compassionate human beings that would never do such a thing.
Yeah. So next one, I hope that no one ever does as well, and that's boarding before your group number is called. Come on, people.
Dude, there's never been a flight in my life that I've been on when that doesn't happen. I ask the flight attendants or the person at the gate check person sometimes after this happens, I'm like, have you ever had a flight that, somebody is, not tried to bum rush it in the wrong zone? They just shake their heads and they laugh, and no, it's never, ever happened. Everybody thinks they're in premium class or the Sky Priority if you're in Delta.
Right. Well, I get it. I've, for several years I traveled so much that I flew in the top tier of United's frequent flyer club, and it was nice to have that top tier status. But when I stopped flying and traveling as much, I went down to the lower class, and I didn't necessarily get the same boarding group. And it really doesn't bother me. I don't mind boarding group number 2. It just makes everything go smoother if you board when you're supposed to board.
Well, it stresses me out. I like to be up towards the front because I really get panicked that I'm not going to have any of that overhead bin space, and I really don't want to put my bag underneath the seat in front of me. But I'm not rational. I stress out over things that are not worth stressing out about, and I appreciate, Jeff, that you can handle it and you're patient. It's a very good quality to have. I wonder what it's like.
Yeah, for sure. So we touched on this a little bit earlier on the leaving garbage, but coughing, sneezing, germ sharing, we all have to go out there and fly when we're sick or when we've got allergies or anything like that. I think the majority of us and even the people that do it, if they see other people do it, they would just ask to try to do your best to not share as many germs and cover up when you cough or sneeze, or if you are sick, they've got those great little masks that they sell in all the airport convenience store, the Hudson News or whatever you want to call it. So that's my next one on the list.
I think that they should do a section on the airplane that's like cordoned off, kind of like The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, if anyone remembers that great John Travolta TV movie from the late 1970s. It was about this kid who had an autoimmune deficiency disorder, so he had to stay in like a giant plastic area so nothing could get in there. That's what we should do with these passengers. Lock them in a giant plastic bag in their own section, and then they can hawk up any loogies on us and give me a virulent new illness, because you know what? I just got over the Ebola. I don't need to catch it again.
Yeah, I get it. But on the other hand, I know someone else that's trying to segregate people, and he's not doing too well in the polls. So,
well, if you want to hear about how the RNC convention did in terms of hotels, make sure you check one of our earlier shows here at the No Vacancy podcast. All right, go on.
So I've seen this. I don't really, ever experience it too much because I wear my really fancy noise canceling headphones, so I don't have to listen to this.
Yeah,
but I know how annoying it could be. But playing games, watching videos without turning off the sound or using headphones. And, I mean, there's people that are just playing Candy Crush with the volume all the way up. So everybody else that doesn't have nice, fancy, snazzy noise-canceling earbuds has to enjoy the game with them, and that's really annoying.
I think that's really rude. I think that's really obnoxious, and that's one of the things that really bothers me most of all. It's just a blatant disregard for every single person around you. You don't see that in the New York City subway systems. Everybody is very nice and polite and quiet and doesn't talk to each other, doesn't look to each other, have their headphones on. Not so much in airplanes. I swear, 1 out of every 5 flights I go on, there's some person doing it, or they're allowing their kids to do it without any control whatsoever.
Right. So, next annoying behavior for me, this is a personal one because, again, I'm a bigger guy. I kind of, I try not to leak out of seats, but especially my arms, they go over. And rolling your suitcase up the aisle. If I'm sitting in an aisle seat, I get that you've got a suitcase, but if you see all the normal or frequent flyer guys out there, they all put their rollers away and carry them through the aisle until it's time for them to put them in the overhead bin.
That's right.
So that's a super annoying habit for me.
You know what, Jeff? What I always do is I roll my bag down the jetway, and when I'm waiting in the line, just before stepping on the airplane, I put the handle down, close everything up, grab it, and put it in front of me and walk with it in front of me. Like a civilized human being.
Yeah. So last one. And again, this is one that I have a huge problem with. And I'm going to add a little something to this. Ooh. But kicking, bumping, shoving the seat back, and, not respecting the person in front of you's, right to privacy. And, I'm the kind of guy that'll turn around and, ask them to not do it. But there's a lot of people that won't. And they'll just put up with it through, the 3 or 4 hour flight or 10-hour flight that they have. And when they get off the flight, they're that more upset about it the whole time they've been, kicked and bumped in the back and never been quite able to relax. And the thing that I'm going to add is when you get up out of your seat, please, 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 do not grab my seat back as a leverage to stand up.
Especially when you're in a deep sleep, and that's going to totally ruin everything for you.
Yes, I did not buy a ticket on a roller coaster. I bought a ticket to get somewhere and not be bothered by that. I have the biggest problem with people that pull back on the seat to right themselves up out of that plane. Granted, we're in tiny, tiny little seats, but that's what the armrests are for, folks.
I thought the armrests were for fighting over elbow room with the guy next to you.
They have multi-purposes, I guess.
Yeah, all right. So how do you feel about putting your seat back? I think there's, I think there's two camps here. People that are absolutely disgusted by it and people that say, it's my right, I can do it. I feel uncomfortable putting my seat back, but I think that you don't have the same issue.
I think you're going to vilify me here, aren't you?
Well, yes. Maybe. We'll see.
Yes, I am in the seat back type of person. I believe that if my seat reclines, that is part of the space that I paid for to sit on that plane. And you have the same exact right behind me to recline your seat to give you the same exact amount of space. So basically, when I take off in a plane, and if I want to feel comfortable, I have no problem whatsoever leaning that seat back as far as it'll go.
Well, at least I hope that you turn behind you and make sure that, not ask permission, but at least make sure the person doesn't have a laptop open, because I'm getting sick and tired of people shoving their seats back when I have my laptop there, and then the whole damn thing could really snap off. People are just so inconsiderate with that.
Yeah, of course. I always check behind me. some people may have a cup of coffee on their tray table or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you slam it back, you're just causing grief for them, and you're trying not to cause grief for yourself. Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? So yeah, I always look back and I make sure that they're good, and I never slam my seat back. I always just kind of ease it back nice and easy and get ready for that long flight.
Well, aren't you a sweetheart? I love that. I love that you're so absolutely polite, even when doing a horrible thing like putting your seat back like that.
I am from Colorado.
That's true, and you guys do think you're better than the rest of us, and maybe in a way you are. So I totally understand that. You know what I'd love for you folks out there listening is send us what you think are the strangest, most annoying, craziest things that you've ever seen other passengers do on an airplane. Is it that disgusting, picking your toes on the plane? Is it something else vile and horrible? Write me a note, glenn@rouse.media, or find me on Twitter and Instagram and let me know @TravelingGlenn. Any final words from you, Jeff?
Again, flying is stressful. If you just take an easy approach, you're going to get it. You're going to get through it way smoother, I think. And that goes for cancellations and lost baggage and everything. It's just something you got to go with the flow with, and all will come out all right in the end.
Yeah, you certainly do. And going with the flow is absolutely critical. It's the only way to make yourself calm and soothed when it comes to a flight. Let everything roll off your backs. Don't let it affect you negatively. Next time I fly, I've got to take that advice myself, Jeff, because I think I take things a little bit too seriously up there at 37,000 feet. And I wonder why they call it the Mile High Club when you're 5 miles up in the air. More like 6 miles up in the air. But we'll investigate that and other critical issues on the next episode of No Vacancy Podcast. Now, buckle up for safety, guys, because we're going to have a great segment after this commercial break. We're going to be talking to the good folks at CID Entertainment and the Lighthouse Cannabis Project to learn all about events with VIP access, how that's reshaping the hospitality industry, and what exactly is going on in the world of cannabis tourism. So I want to thank you all for listening, and stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now @TravelingGlenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Get a $50 Best Western gift card when you stay 2 separate times. Plus, enjoy breakfast and free high-speed internet. Rewards members get even more when you book direct at bestwestern.com. Visit bestwestern.com for terms and conditions. Each Best Western branded hotel is independently owned and operated.
We're going to get to that a little bit more. I'm really interested in the whole move to university VIP kind of world. And that's why I have today, Dan Berkowitz, CID Entertainment CEO and founder, and Kobi Waldfogel, who's part of the Lighthouse Cannabis Project. And it's going to be great to talk to Kobi in just a little bit. But Dan, how are you today, man?
Hello. I'm doing quite well.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm finding in the hospitality world, it's all about a world of customization. We all want to do something that's just for us, so we want to feel special. And you seem to be a guy in the middle who's kind of creating that engine to make that happen.
Yeah. So we like to create experiences that connect people to the music and the experiences that they love. So although we're doing it for a lot of people at one time, some of our biggest programs are for 35, 40,000 people at a time. Some of our smallest are for maybe 100 or 150. But we like to give it that personal touch so that we're making sure that every single person is getting what they want.
Yeah, I really love it. And I think the interesting niche that you're doing is by doing these music tie-ins is really interesting because you have a fervent fan base that's going directly to bands that have been unshackled from the big, mainstream record company world. They're doing it all on their own. Bands like Fish, which we're here in town to see now here in Denver. And I think that this plays nicely into that same kind of spirit that the community has formed.
Yeah, and we work with both, a lot of different types of artists. Some of the artists that we work for literally have #1 songs. Some of the artists that we work for have never been on the radio. So what the common thread between all of them is that they have a group of passionate fans that care a lot about them.
You do work with like Blake Shelton.
Yeah, Blake Shelton.
Alan Jackson.
Luke Bryan, Muse.
Sarah Evans, who I'm going to pretend I've heard of because,
Weird Al.
Yeah, now that's a great one.
Right. I mean, for us, there really isn't a better example of the type of artist that we'd like to work with than Weird Al. Weird Al has cultivated this amazing core fan base over his storied career, and he cares deeply about his fans' experience.
I don't like to brag, but I was at Hershey Park last week, and I was on a bench waiting for my kids on a roller coaster, sat next to his cousin. That's right.
Well, that's about as cool. And that's the thing. That's how cool Weird Al is.
Right?
That you sit next to his cousin on a bench at Hershey Park and tell people that for years.
I thought that was amazing that she actually worked that way into the conversation, and I think she got an 8 out of 10 on it being organic.
Right,
you know?
right.
I think
As you see, it took me 90 seconds to work Weird Al into our conversation.
Well, that's how you know you're really cool. So how did you get this idea? How did you get into doing this idea of giving folks that VIP access in the world of music?
So I'm a huge music fan. I always have been. In high school and in college, I would see a lot more concerts than most people, and a lot more concerts than my parents knew about. I would literally pull off, my best friends and I would tell our parents, this is before cell phones, before email, I'd say, hey, Mom, I'm sleeping over Todd's house. Todd would say, hey, Mom, I'm sleeping over Dan's house.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we're in Burgettstown, Pennsylvania, seeing Fish,
right.
which is in Pittsburgh.
Were you at the show for the first ever story of the ghost in Burgettstown, Pennsylvania?
That I don't know.
Right.
That I don't know. I may have.
I guess you had a good night.
Right. Yeah, no, I did have a good night. I believe that was in 96
yes.
or 97. So that's when we were there. I was always a big music fan. I was always the one that was putting together the logistics for me and my friends.
Right.
I could get the tickets. I could figure out the hotel. I would go to AAA and get the triptych where they would map out your route. Be like, okay, I'm going to Burgettstown, then I'm going to Columbus, then I'm going to Meriwether, and then I'm coming home. And they would give you this book that shows you how to get from point A to point B.
I remember it was so exciting when we finally got to MapQuest and I could just print up my book of directions at home. And I'd print up, from here to Boston, from Boston up to the town we're going to in Vermont and all of that.
Yeah, and it was difficult. I mean, it wasn't like, it was before cell phones. You wouldn't know how to meet up with your friends if you lost them. So, we were good at it. We would make meeting points. We would figure out what hotels we're going to stay at in between. So it was always, I gravitated towards the one who made the plans. Through that, I just had this intense passion for live music. I somehow became the tour manager of the Disco Biscuits, well beyond my skills or capabilities at the time. I was just very passionate about it, and they let me do it.
I heard their bassist was recently on a tour of the Lighthouse Cannabis Project.
He was. He had an interesting experience.
Who's actually third cousins to Weird Al on here.
And she brags that she's third cousins of the bassist of the Disco Biscuits.
Yes, exactly.
And when I became the tour manager of the Disco Biscuits, I would focus a lot on the fans and what did they want? Did they want more than just a concert ticket? Because I knew that there was more, because they were giving so much to come see these shows. They weren't just buying a ticket in their hometown and going. They were buying a ticket to 10, 15 shows on a tour and going to all of them. So I put together packages for their fans that would be a hotel, a shuttle, a ticket, and some sort of experience at the venue. And then after the Disco Biscuits and I parted ways, I started doing this at Electric Factory concerts in Philadelphia, putting together packages for people that were coming to see shows. We did MIA, we did the Beastie Boys, we did the Roots, and under Jeff Gordon's guidance, I helped form what I think is now the beginning of what we do now. I put together travel packages and experiential packages for people who love live music.
So how do you get the band on board? Because if you're putting together a package, you're not going through Ticketmaster. I know how well that works.
Right. So, even though we do sell through Ticketmaster, because we are a primary seller, we sell with the first tickets that are sold. Every deal that we do on a tour is through the artist. So it'll be the manager, the agent, and sometimes the artist themselves. So
why did those artists want to get involved? What's in it for them?
Well, there's a couple things. One of the biggest reasons these artists do it is honestly to create an authentic connection between them and their most dedicated fans.
Right.
There is a financial incentive for them to do it as well. There's certainly no hiding the fact that our packages are traditionally more expensive than just a GA ticket to the show.
Well, I think that's the whole point. And a lot of the things I talk about on this podcast is creating those premium experiences that get guests to want to pay more. Because you're giving them access. You're giving them something they can't get anywhere else.
Right.
So you can charge the higher prices. And I don't think people are price resistant when they get that experience in return.
As long as they get value, there's absolutely no limit to what can be charged. A lot of artists will say, I don't want to charge more than $599 no matter what. I just don't want to do that. I don't want my fans to think that I'm doing this or that.
Right.
And some will say, If you think that you can put together a $15,000, $20,000 experience that whoever buys it will say, wow, that was really fun and I got a lot of value out of it, I'm in. So as long as we're putting together packages that provide a lot of value to folks, there's really no shame in it.
Is there a particular experience that you curated that you think was the most interesting of them all?
That's a really interesting question and one that I've heard before.
I guess it's not that interesting then.
Well, no, it is. It is because it's hard. It's interesting for me to think about.
Yeah.
It's interesting for me to go in my memory. But CID Entertainment spawned off CID Presents, and that is us putting on our own shows.
Right.
So the first time we ever did that was down in Riviera Maya. It was Luke Bryan's Crash My Playa. There had never been a country music destination event before. So this is 4 nights at a hotel in Mexico. It's I think it was 8 different country artists, all food and drink included, activities during the day, adventures off-site like ziplining and ATVs and going to the ruins, and people who love country music traveling to Mexico. And we pick them up at the airport, we drive them to the hotel they're staying at, and then we build a venue on the beach. And it's not just a stage on the beach, it's like a really immersive experience with fire dancers and mariachi bands when they come in the gates, and set break entertainment, and the stage is really awesome, and the site lighting was great, and we did art on the beach. And I heard someone saying, we actually captured it in our recap video, I heard somebody say, this seems like we're inside of a movie.
Right.
And to me, that was like one of the coolest things I've ever heard anyone say. And this will be 2017 will be our 3rd installment of Crash My Playa. It's done better and better every year, and that's how CID Presents was spawned. So I think out of everything that we've done, that was one of the most special.
And I love that, and I think that if there's a particular fan that wants to do that experience, they're going to pay. And I witnessed that happen with Fish Riviera Maya this past January. I think it was in November. Tickets went on sale.
September.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there at my computer. Tickets are going on sale at 11 a.m. I'm getting ready for the refresh. Sold out. It was unbelievable how fast that went. And you would think at the price points you were asking,
right,
$2,750 to $5,000 a person. I think
I
it
think
was.
The least expensive package is around $1,700.
Yeah, but that was a little bit further off. Not
right.
something that I would consider. It's interesting that you're going to probably attract that group of people that are in their 40s now, that have that money, want to have that pampered experience, just jump on it so quickly and fervently. I think it shows the depth and hunger in the market for this type of product.
Yeah, and I think especially within the fish community, there had been a built-up demand that there were tens of thousands of people that were saying, no matter what, the first time Fish ever does this, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So that was that initial rush that we got. And we were a bit surprised by it as well. We didn't realize the intense demand that would be on that first day.
Yeah, and when reading up on that, I thought it was just fascinating how you, like this other event you were talking about, you handle everything. I get off the airplane, and I don't have to think about anything except the fish experience until I get back on the airplane. And
right.
I think that's very symbolic of how we're moving in the world of travel, is to have just such a highly curated experience. But now you're looking to curate new types of experiences. We're here in Colorado, and I find it interesting how the universe has changed since we got into this world of legal pot, right? Now, I had to write down a few statistics because I was just on a tour. I didn't want to mess any of this up. She made almost $1 billion last year, which was up 42% from the $700 million marijuana brought in, I should say cannabis brought in 2015, which is spectacular. Aurora, Colorado alone got $8.1 million in taxes just since it was legalized in October 2014. And overall, $135 million in taxes have been generated in 2015 alone. This speaks volumes to me about what great opportunity this is and how people are flocking to the world of cannabis tourism. So you're here, you're in the middle of it all. You're creating these highly curated, again, tours to get behind the scenes and demystify what it's all about. What was your inspiration for this? Maybe then we could bring in Kobi over here to explain what people experience. My
inspiration for this was to give people an option to learn about what's going on here in Colorado and to learn what's going on in the legalized cannabis industry. And it's very, as you just experienced, it's very interesting to see how it all works, and it's very interesting to see what a professional operation it is. And we wanted to create something that was a refined, fun, and educational experience so that people could come, and it doesn't have to be people who are looking to just get on a van and smoke. Right. It could be people who have never smoked before or who are just simply interested in the process because they're interested in agriculture.
Right.
Just how does this work? What is this? Or someone who's interested in it because they're interested in new business and they're interested in innovation, because that's what this really is.
I think so, and it's called the Lighthouse Cannabis Project, and I highly recommend you coming down to Colorado and Denver and working on it with these folks and going on this tour. It was really fascinating. I like how you call it a project, because it's more of the educational type of spin to it. And that's really what I felt like I got out of today, where we went and we looked at all of the history that led up to it being criminalized, and then how there was a cultural shift, and then all of a sudden now how we're in the major era of legalization here in Colorado alone. So what was the process like for you putting together a tour and trying to make sure that it was not taking part in those sensationalistic aspects of it, but really tried to make it a true understanding of what this community is trying to get out when it comes to the pot legalization and tours?
So I'm going to defer to Kobi once we get to the point where we decided how we were going to do what we were doing. But we had a vision together, and that vision was to produce something that could be good for people who have been partaking in cannabis one way or another for 20 years, 30 years, or someone who had never thought about partaking in it or was just interested in it. So we knew right away that it had to be more than just going to a bunch of dispensaries, that there had to be an educational aspect to it. And it is intentionally called the Lighthouse Cannabis Project. Mm-hmm. This is the first of many, many things that we're going to be doing under that moniker. So I knew that I wanted people that were here in Colorado that were very passionate about what we were doing. Kobi certainly fits the bill there. And we wanted a partner in the Terrapin Care Station, who we eventually found. We wanted a partner who was aligned with us on that mission, that there's more to show people than just, this is how much weed you can smoke.
Right. And I think by doing that, you're really helping to explain to the folks out there that have never participated in it, that never would participate in it, what it's actually like, that it's not some sort of thing that should be taking place in the shadows and demonized, that it's something that's part of mainstream culture now, and I could understand why people want to see what this process is like. So, Kobi, let's talk to you a little bit about what this tour is all about. So I find it interesting. You guys, you pick everybody up on a bus, and then off you go, and we get to go to a real grow house out there.
Yeah, that's essentially the sightseeing tour product. We really wanted something that would be more like a regular sightseeing tour than, the traditional weed tour that is really focused on consumption. We saw a real opportunity to educate the general public about this brand new thing. Wanted our product to really be accessible for people that might not even want to take a step into a dispensary on their own, but might go with a guide who kind of, can show them really what's going on behind the scenes.
And we did get to go behind the scenes, which was absolutely fascinating. And first of all, we got to put on a jumpsuit, which was great. It gave me a little bit of feeling of Walter White, but in a good, positive sense of the word. So that was
freaking good.
That was that was definitely a lot of fun. We got these great glasses, and it really made you feel like I was either going to go into a chip factory for Intel, not for this. And for somebody that's heard of cannabis before but has never seen anything like this, it was very eye-opening. And I think the thing that was most surprising to me is how not sensationalistic it was, and how much it's like going on your typical brewery tour. Except you got to see more, because on brewery tours, everything is just in like, hey, it's in this giant container here, it's in this giant container there. Right?
Yeah, the brewery tour model is something we definitely looked at as something we wanted to be like. We want to be like the Coors Brewery Tour. We want to be like, something a mainstream tourist would be interested in. Really about the industrial process of it all, that it is a cultivation facility like anything else, and it really is a working grow facility. We always say that because they really are working all the time there and producing those products.
Yeah. How long does it take to go from, a clone to client, so to speak? Or even though you have the seed to sale tours,
right?
It's called from the Lighthouse Cannabis Project.
Right. The whole cannabis life cycle from the time it's cloned from its mother is about 15 weeks till you're going to see it on the shelf at the store.
What are some of the most interesting personalities that have been on the tour? Because I think that the person who has nothing to do with the cannabis community is going to think, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of, stoners. But I bet that's not true.
That's not true at all, and it's been really fun to just watch different people's reactions. And honestly, the less people know about cannabis, I feel like they really get more out of it because they knew nothing coming in, and they really get a great, I think, overall kind of Cannabis 101 experience on our tour, where they're going to get a wide range of information about not only the plant's use, but also the history of the plant that most people don't know, and a lot, more of the broader picture of cannabis.
Dan, what was your first tour like?
Well, my first tour was I would say a prototype tour. It was a private tour with Kobi and a couple other people, but it was eye-opening. I mean, it was, I have never really understood what it takes to make the end product.
Right.
That, of course, I only participate in legally in states where it's recreationally
Of course.
legal. And you just never think about what happens behind the scenes. And I think analogous to sort of how it is in the music business as well, or the music industry, where like you show up to a concert, lights go down, band comes on the stage, like woo, looks like fun. There's a ton of work that goes in behind it.
Right.
That it's like basically right behind the curtain. So to me, it was just so interesting to see what happens from clone to client. I like that, or from seed
Feel
to sale.
feel free to use that.
We already did. There's it's just it's just so interesting. It's step by step, and to see how the differences in the way that the plants are treated throughout the weeks of their lives, and then what happens once it gets ready for sale.
Yeah, and I also found it very interesting how much science is really involved in this. It's with all the light cycles and the nutrients, and it's a very interesting process. And just like craft beers, there's all sorts of different craft types of cannabis, which I found absolutely fascinating. But it's got to have a great effect on Colorado tourism in general. What effects are both of you guys seeing, and how's that able to help you deliver even more interesting VIP surprises?
So as this is the first year that we're offering these cannabis tours, what we're seeing is a big uptick in participation. So we've gone from very low numbers at the beginning, and now we're getting to the point where we have sold out tours weekend after weekend. So to us, it's getting busier, and that's better for us. We are seeing some sort of tie-in to the normal music tours that we do or the travel packages that we offer. But we're certainly seeing people that they come to Denver, they check into their hotel, and one of the first things they want to do is experience cannabis one way or another.
Right.
So to me, it's much more than about legalized recreational cannabis use. Like, it's about freedom. Like, that's what we want to do. Like, as human beings, we want to participate in legalized recreational cannabis. And when you come to Denver, you land and you're like, oh, thank goodness. Like, finally, I can do this.
So do you feel like you're part of a movement?
100%. I feel like we are simply showing people or, showing folks that take our tours a glimpse into the beginning of a real movement that is geared towards personal liberties. And, no one's doing anybody any harm by partaking in cannabis in their home. It's something that makes perfect common sense to be legalized nationally. It's something that I would say a vast majority of people would agree with. Obviously, it's something that's been harder and harder to get through state by state, but it's about personal freedom.
So, being that you brought up that particular topic, one of the analogies I make to it is to the casino business. How in 1975 it was so demonized all over except for Nevada. And then in 1976, Atlantic City legalized casino gaming. It went on slowly just in those two jurisdictions until like the early 1990s. Then the Indian reservation started getting it. And then before long, it rolled across very quickly in the entire country because it came, again, out of the shadows, wasn't demonized. It was run by corporations and cleaned up. And I get the sense that we're talking about the same kind of thing here.
Yes and no. I do believe that casinos are, I would say, less of a globally beneficial sort of operation when there are clearly losers that come into a casino. You go in with money, you're hoping to win more money, you leave with no money. And the casinos are capitalizing on that. So I don't think
there's a lot of people on the tour today that went in with a lot of money and came out with no money.
However, they left with the product.
That's
they
true.
left with the product that they were very happy with.
Yes.
So, in one way, yes, if you clean up something that people want to do that doesn't harm people, and you legitimize it and you make it beneficial to the communities that it exists in through taxing it, there's definitely some there's some clear comparison there. But I think that unlike the casino business, there aren't many losers when it comes to legalized recreational cannabis.
Right, and I agree. And Kobi, here in Colorado, how do you see the culture around the cannabis movement? Maybe has it changed society? Has it made it better? Has it made it worse?
Living here through legalization, it's kind of crazy how it hasn't really changed society, and the sky is not falling here in Denver, and it is slowly just being integrated and becoming just a normal thing for people to do.
Now, we were watching a little bit of the movie Reefer Madness on the bus earlier today, so it has me very concerned that all these tourists are going to come here and suddenly freak out. Have you seen anything like that happening?
We play Reefer Madness on every tour, and I always make the joke that at the end of this movie, you feel free to give me all of your weed, and no one ever does. So they hold on to it themselves. And,
well, that would be Reefer Madness.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah, it's not as effective in this day and age, unfortunately. But we still show it as kind of to get into the 1930s spirit when we're talking about prohibition.
Yeah. So Dan, where do you see this all going from here?
For Lighthouse Cannabis,
yeah.
I see us being a part of the education of what does it mean to have legalized recreational cannabis use, and how could it benefit the communities that participate in it? How could it benefit the people who are participating in it? How can it not be a detriment to people who don't want to participate in it?
Right.
If you do not want to smoke legalized recreational cannabis, it's not going to affect your life in a negative way. And I would like for us to be a part of the movement that helps educate people, that turns on the lights, and I think that's where Lighthouse came from, that shows people that it's not a dirty, murky business. It's something that a lot of people really enjoy, that causes no harm to anybody around them.
Do you ever feel like here in town you're preaching to the choir, and then how do you get the message out to the non-believers?
I do not feel like we're preaching to the choir, because I feel like even in Denver and even in the counties that have legalized it and the cities that have legalized it, there's still people who are detractors who might not understand. They might not understand what all of this is that has to do with legalized cannabis. What's going to happen? Are there going to be people on every corner that are, scratching their necks waiting
right.
for the cannabis store to open? And that's obviously not happening. So I think that even here, we can do a good job of educating people of what this really is.
Is it a demographic difference for people who are against versus pro? I'm thinking a lot of older folks that grew up, brainwashed since birth might feel a little bit differently than younger folks.
I don't know. I don't think that we have enough real data to say that. I would, you would think that the more conservative the person leans in other parts of their lives, the more traditional they're going to be, the less
right.
accepting of this sort of change they're going to be. But I don't really know, and I don't think we can really comment on that. However, we know that the more people understand it and the more they learn about it, the better chance that we have of everybody being okay with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to talk to you about some other really cool thing that you're doing as well. It's called Curadora. It's an online booking engine for hotels. And again, we're bringing it back to the music scene now. You're actually partnering with bands to allow them to book hotels on their websites. Really interesting, genius, I'd say, idea to hit that community. So how's that work?
Well, it's bands and festivals. So something as simple as you go to your favorite band's website or you go to your favorite festival's website, and they'll be offering travel packages, hopefully through CID Entertainment. Mm-hmm. But they'll be offering travel packages. They'll be offering tickets only. They'll be offering, on-site lodging packages, or maybe they'll just be offering tickets only. And then there will be a little button that says "Book Your Hotel," and then you can go on the Curadora page when we'd partner with the festival, and you'd go on the Curadora page, and we'd actually have hotels that are close to the venue that you can find things out that music fans would like. Does it have 24-hour room service? Is there late checkout? Is there coffee downstairs? Is it on a shuttle route? So it's called Curadora, which is the Spanish word for curator. Mm-hmm. So we like to think that it's more than just a booking engine. We're actually curating your experience. And down the road, we're hoping to know that if you're a big Phish fan and you're also a big Boston Red Sox fan and you also love traveling to, let's say, Chicago, we would send you an email and
right.
say, hey, Phish is playing
mm-hmm.
at Wrigley Field
right.
at the same weekend as the Red Sox are in town playing the White Sox. Also, we know that you love this,
yep.
The W on Michigan Avenue. We can put together a package, and it's going to be a day game with the Red Sox versus the White Sox, 2 nights at Fish, Wrigley, and 3 nights at the W on Lakeshore Drive.
All right, that's pretty sexy stuff, right? So how do you know who likes what?
They tell us. So that's going to be the mission we're going to be on for the next, I'd say, 3 to 5 years, is learning as much as we can about the people who are using Curadora. Who are your favorite bands? Who are your favorite sports teams? What are your favorite cities you like to travel to? Who do you like to travel with? And what are your favorite types of hotels? So that we'll be able to actually curate experiences for you. So then rather than people, thinking like, oh, maybe this dream weekend would come up, we can actually alert you through the algorithms and the relational database that we're building that says, hey, look, this is perfect for you. It's July 20th weekend. And then, eventually we do see Curadora getting there. And in the meantime, it's just going to be a way to book the hotel that is relevant to the event that you're attending. So we like to say event-based travel.
I love it. I like the idea of being able to just hit book now and have it all done for me, and know that I'm going to get a very high quality curated experience. So that's the future, huh?
We hope so.
Yeah.
We hope to be a part of it. We think, I'm a firm believer in the move towards automation in the next 5 to 10 years. I think we'll have not just driverless cars, but everyone's going to have all this information at their fingertips. So, I do believe that we'll be able to pull all this information, this data together, and then just pop it in front of you and say, here are your dream weekends this year. Choose one, choose two. So I think that information is going to get much easier to access rather than going on. We used to go to the libraries and look at microfilm and microfiche, and then we went on the internet and we Googled things. Now maybe we're asking Alexa about things, and then in the future, they're just going to pop up and say, we know what you like. Here's the weekends that you should go on a little trip.
Yeah, and probably even know that I'm free that weekend because it knows my calendar.
Right. Right. Would you like me to reschedule the meeting that you have Sunday afternoon?
Yes.
Because you're going to have to pull that off. Would you like me to tell Dan the podcast is canceled?
Right. Well, something came up. What are you going to do? Kobi, that's anything else that you want to add?
No, thank you so much, Glenn, and thank you for coming on the tour. I'm glad you got to learn a little bit more about Colorado's most colorful new industry.
All right, so tell us about how we could find you and take a tour with you. We had such a good time.
Sure, yeah. If you want to come see the cannabis industry with me on a Lighthouse tour, you can go to lighthousecannabisproject.com and book it right there online.
Great, Dan. I want to learn more about CID. How do we find you, what you're all about, and get access to some of those great travel packages?
You can go on cidentertainment.com. CIDpresents.com or Curadora.com.
Great. So, and if you're a big time hotel exec that wants to talk to Dan, reach out to me, Glenn at rouse.media, and I will put you guys in touch. I think that this idea is going to go somewhere. I love Curadora. The only thing I don't like about it is that it was your idea and not my idea, and that pisses me off. So I guess because of that, I'll be doing this podcast for some time to come, and I will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.